Hey everyone, Noam Chomsky here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new PRhyme album, PRhyme 2. PRhyme is a hip-hop duo consisting of two pretty legendary artists. I'm talking about producer and DJ Premier, who has helped soundtrack some of rap's greatest voices over the years. Jay-Z, Nas, of course he was one half of Gang Starr, Boogie Down Productions, KRS-One, Mobb Deep, Biggie, just to name a very select few, and Royce da 5'9", who has been known through his multiple solo records as well as 1/4 of Slaughterhouse as one of the best lyricists the Midwest has to offer. Now, PRhyme formed in 2014 to a lot of fanfare. They had a pretty big record with a lot of great features on it. A lot of hip-hop heads, both young and old, seemed to take to the album. I personally wasn't really stopped in my tracks by it. I found releases from Bus Driver and Open Mike Eagle and Run the Jewels and Freddie Gibbs and Madlib to just be way more compelling and interesting, exciting. The album, while it was commendable, I thought sounded a lot like just some old heads trying to stay contemporary and updated. There wasn't that much material on it either. I just thought it was maybe kind of a one-off thing that, I don't know, wasn't going to continue past this point. But whoa, PRhyme is actually back. It's actually like still a thing, and I thought, well, at this point, let's just do it. Let's give it a shot. They're obviously not giving it up. Let's see what they have to offer. Now that it's another release, maybe it's a little bit more well-oiled and interesting. A few things are for sure on this project. One, there's definitely more material, just under an hour of music on this thing. A lot of decent features ranging from Big Crit to Rhapsody to Yellow Wolf, and it's definitely a more versatile project. You can really tell that Premo and Royce were trying to make a lot of different tracks that came at a lot of different angles. Instrumentally, the album really is all over the place, and I mean that in the best way possible. This record really kind of showcases just how fantastic and talented and dynamic Premo is as a producer. I mean, I guess if anything is the selling point of this album, it's just how much ability Premo has to adopt and succeed in a lot of different hip-hop and a lot of different instrumental styles. However, there were some glaring flaws for me on this project that kind of kept me back from loving it, even though I find a great deal of this album to be commendable. One, I find the record kind of bloated, like it did not need this many tracks. And maybe the reason I feel that way is there's quite a bit of material on this thing that I find kind of underwhelming or just to be sort of redundant, because Royce, I respect him as a lyricist. I mean, I've been conscious of him since I was a young little Slim Shady fan and loved his contributions to Bad Meets Evil. Outside of a good handful of tracks on here, much of what he delivers on this album is just general, slick braggadocio, which I guess is fine if the wordplay you're dealing with is like super high grade. You're just dropping one frickin' quotable after another, but that's not necessarily the case here. As there are multiple tracks on this thing that just kind of breeze by without so much as a memorable moment. I'll say Sunflower Seeds is one, probably Made Man is another. But when Royce and Premo do hit an aggressive peak, it can be pretty exciting. I mean, at least there are tracks on here like One of the Hardest, which is most likely this album's aggression fever pitch. And there are other tracks on here that conceptually, narratively are super smart, super compelling. Black History is one of them, where Royce kind of goes through the backstory of not only himself, but Premo, talking about his early years with Gang Starr and just kind of bringing that together as both of their contributions to the music game. And the track with Rhapsody on here is one of the best conceptual relationship hip-hop songs I've heard in a while. Just pretty much these two people tied up in a relationship where they're both unhappy. They're just at each other's throats, and the aggression and the frustration coming from both sides of the aisle on this song, it's just, you can really feel it. A lot of Royce's rhymes on Everyday Struggle are pretty great too, directly referencing the infamous show on Complex, referencing Joe Budden, pretty much the hip-hop game in its current state. Without Warning with Yellow Wolf is a pretty great moment too. But, you know, again, there are just a lot of spots on this album that to me come off super mild, a lot of weak hooks. One on here where he just grabs an interpolation of, and I ran so far away. That ended up being pretty weak. A song on here with Dave East where it's literally a track about being born in the wrong generation, which is not exactly the I don't know, the tone one might want to strike in 2018. You know, there's a handful of great tracks on this thing, great verses, and fantastic beats. It's just that this album, to me, it just didn't have much in the way of long game. Royce is going to need to be as consistently interesting and fantastic as Premo is on this record if they're ever going to put out an album of this length and it's just fire from front to back. While Royce always brings some good flows on tracks, and there are some pretty substantive songs on this record, especially toward the back end, a lot of cuts on here, especially the more in-your-face songs that are a little bit more slick talking and macho, the substance there, I feel like I could get almost anywhere. Sure, is it a slightly higher lyrical quality than that of, you know, your average SoundCloud rapper? Yeah. But outside of that, there's not a whole lot to praise it on. I'm feeling a light to decent 6 on this album. Transition, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe. Please don't die. And hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another review you can check out. There is also the subscription link. And I will see you in the next one. Anthony Fantano, PRhyme forever.